All right, welcome to the first episode of the Charger Sports Podcast. I'm Hunter Mitchell. I'm joined by Mr. Brooks. Brooks, let's get into it. All right, so how have you liked Carroll Sports so far this year?
It's been exciting to watch, Hunter. I got to confess, my first podcast I've been a part of, so no pressure to get the first one right here. But yeah, a lot of excitement. It's always interesting in the fall and exciting in the fall to see students' enthusiasm. I don't know if you saw the mad dash down to center 50-yard line last week, and just seeing folks out there for the football games and having folks in class with soccer and tennis and golf and cross and volleyball and everything else. So far, I think an exciting start and a pretty successful start to the year, too, that we'll talk about.
Yeah. So since today's the first episode of our podcast, we're just going to briefly go over all the sports. Then we're going to maybe circle back around and hit some of the more key elements that we have already. All right, let's get started. Our football team, they've started off pretty good. They beat Lures and they beat Snyder. How do you think both games went?
Yeah, I think I didn't get a chance to go to the Lures game. Obviously, I think it's safe to say that we're still pretty good, and Lures might not be as good as they were last year. But then to come back on Friday against Snyder and that win, I think what impressed me most about the game on Friday, besides the crowd size, getting a chance to see that from the press box there, was just how composed they were. I mean, there's a lot of emotion going on with celebrating Owen, and you're playing a rival, Coach Dinan's old school, and it's Snyder, so you expect a lot of emotion. And by and large, with a couple of exceptions, if they think about it, a pretty well-played game as far as emotion or penalties. I was very pleased with how the guys conducted themselves, and I'm sure Coach Dinan and the staff emphasized that throughout the week of playing under control and remembering the purpose of the game and not letting it be a bigger thing than it is. But at the end of the day, the guys need to be the ones to play with composure and self-control, and that was probably the thing that, obviously the winning is good, but even beyond that, part of what facilitated the win, I think, was the composure with which they played.
Yeah, and this year we have a brand new offensive line, and we have sophomores at running backs. How do you think the line and Nate Starks played?
Yeah, it was fun to watch Nate out there. Yeah, I know a decent amount of those track guys from track, specifically like the 4x1. You know, you had Jorge out there, you had Nate out there, you had Braden over there. So, Nate, fortunately for Nate, unfortunately, with the injury, he got some experience last year in the postseason at running back, and I think looked good, got a lot of touches, some yards after contact there, and it was good to see. Also enjoyed when they put Braden in the backfield, some of those T-bone formations, and just kids fast. So, yeah, a lot of good note for those that are watching, football speed and track speed, they translate very well, and the people that are fast in the track are also fast in the field, so it was fun to watch.
Yeah. Do you feel like the game, obviously, Carroll played very composed. Do you think the penalty at the beginning of the second half impacted the game there?
Remind me which one that was.
The unsportsmanlike and taunting.
Oh, yeah. It might have impacted a little bit, but I think it's one of those things where, any sport, you're focused, okay, that happened. If you're still focused on what happened in the past and you're not in the present, then you're going to get beat.
Yeah.
Whether it's beat on the play or beat in the game potentially, but I don't think it was too much of an impact. I mean, you can always go back and look at 6 things here, 7 things there, so it's a thing, but any well-coached team, any athletes that are focused on, we want to win the game at the end, then you're focused right now, and whether you like the call or not, you're going to move on to what's next.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty nice to see how big of a crowd we had on Friday.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Gender, which I think would be probably the most authoritative source on that, pretty sure that was the fullest it's been. And granted, it's the second year of the facility, but if you think back to that Lures game last year at kickoff,
That was pretty full.
that was pretty packed, and we were bigger than that on Friday. Homestead game was big last year. We were definitely bigger than that on Friday. So, yeah, just fun to see folks out there. I was actually talking to some friends at church last night they live in the district. They just moved in over to the Drake's Point or whatever animal or duck that subdivision is named over there. But they have no kids in the district yet. And, they just went to the game and were very impressed with the student section and the size of the crowd and the energy. So, a lot of fun. Obviously, arguably the biggest reason for the interest, very much unfortunate with Owen's passing, but man, you saw a community rally around it. How cool to see was it Jason Owen's dad out there as the honorary coach. That's pretty cool stuff. So yeah, fun-sized crowd, and you just hope that stuff continues. And as we'll talk about later, there's more than just football going on, right? You got to support the volleyball team, the soccer team, tennis and golf and cross, and a lot of good things. Football gets a lot of attention, understandably so, but it'd be nice to see some of that support out at other functions as well.
Yeah. So on that note, let's go ahead and move on to girls volleyball. And the varsity team this year, they've started off 10-0, and they've played some pretty tough opponents so far in the season.
And I've dropped, two sets? Is that what we figured out, Hunter?
Yeah, 2 sets total.
So those that are not volleyballers, most of the time they're playing best of fives, and you look here, East Noble 3-0, DeKalb 3-0, Penn 2-1, right? Munster 2-0. That's in the tournament. I learned that from a Lion Summer in class, that if they were in a tournament, a lot of times it's best of three.
Best
so
of three.
2-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, and then tonight against a 9-3 Huntington North team. So potentially maybe a little bit more of a challenge. Their records aren't always accurate. But yeah, I think it's safe to say the volleyball team is pretty successful in who they faced thus far.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've had a very strong start to their season, obviously, and they have, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 7 seniors out of that group.
We could pull up that roster real quick. How good is Mr. Brooks at finding the athletic website there? I've got at least 2 of them in class. A Lion Summer.
Let's see, 1 senior, 2 senior, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 seniors.
6 seniors.
Which, that's good for this year. And they've obviously performed. Last year they made it to regionals, and they lost in Fishers. But it was close in Fishers. This year they're expecting to make a deeper run, because it's the same team from last year.
Right. And one thing that really impressed me too, I went to the match? I should know this. Volleyball? Game?
I think it's a match.
I
think it's a match.
Competition, right?
Competition, yes.
Anyway, I went to the competition, and that would have been last week against, I think that was against Heritage. And one thing I noticed, and I didn't really pay much attention in years past, but Coach Steiners knew this year, they did this warm-up drill down there on the north end of the court, and just the energy that they brought, that was the thing that I noticed most about that team. I mean, yeah, they won 3-0 that night. But just when folks are coming in, subbing out the bench, there's high fives, there's energy there, there's energy in the warm-ups and so forth. You can tell they like each other.
Yeah.
And anytime you get a group of people that have talent, but also that are there for each other and have energy, that's a contagious thing. So that was what stood out to me most about that match last week.
Because when you have energy, that gives you the opportunity to just be better when you like the people that you're with, right?
I remember when Mr. Ginder, the AD, had for the coaches, this is probably 3 or 4 years ago, he had a guy named Brian Kane come in. He's a mental performance coach. And he talked about there being some study, I think it was of NBA teams, I've been like the Celtics or whatever, but teams that are, giving fist bumps or high fives or contact or physical touch tend to have more success than those that aren't. And I guess you could make the argument, well, are they giving the high five and the fist bump because they're success? So is it a correlation, causation? But nonetheless, and one thing we try to do with the cross teams is encourage guys to pick each other up, encourage girls, high fives, keep it going, keep the energy high. And last Tuesday against Heritage, the energy was high, and you keep that up, and good things happen.
Yeah, and they play with energy during their sets too. It's not like they come out and they play flat.
Right.
They actually have a lot of energy.
Right, and they do that, Neon Nation, at least many times without a huge amount of you there. So you want to see some good volleyball with good players that put in a lot of time and are fun to watch. Just check out your volleyball matches. We'll talk about. So we've got. Tonight, I didn't even check. Is tonight home, road?
Tonight is
well, by the time they see this,
Huntington
the
North.
podcast is going to have been last night. So
Correct.
Tonight's on the road anyway. But tournament this weekend, correct? And that's
Tournament this weekend. There's 3 games here, so come check it out.
Yeah.
And also, you can watch all home games on the Charger channel on nhsaa.org.
There you go. And all the guys are involved with that, not just Landon. Although Landon does an amazingly good job. I don't know that our student body realizes how good that is. I mean, I think Mr. Ginder said we produce more than anybody else in the state, and we're not just doing varsity football.
We're doing
all it's levels. Varsity, JV, freshman, all levels, all sports. It's incredible what Mr. Ginder and then what the students with that. I wouldn't even just say for high school production. It's just good. It's done well, and it's a great way to access stuff if you're out of town this weekend for Labor Day, whatever it is. So proud of our students and the video production there.
All right. Now, let's talk about the cross-country team. I'll
we
let you
can talk about the cross-country team. So the cross-country team, we've got our, so this will be coming out, we'll post this later today. Today's September 1st. So on Saturday is a meet at Marion. So far we've had 2 meets. We had kind of a different type. It wasn't a 5K race, but it's called a Hokum Carom. It's like a relay race. It's kind of a glorified practice, to be honest with you. A chance to kind of get a competition under your belt. So that was back on August 13th. And then we ran at Huntington a week later. And then we've just been getting solid practices. And our meet this Saturday, I think Coach Miller. So Coach Miller's the girls' head coach. I'm the boys' head coach. We do a lot of stuff together, though. And then Coach Hartman, Senior Hartman over at CFC is involved with both programs as well. So this Saturday we're at Marion. I think we're excited for a couple of reasons. One is it's probably the healthiest, fullest, freshest lineup that will run yet this year. And it's also, if you ask any cross-country runner, they get excited about running at Marion because it's like a grass track. I mean, there's one hill that covers the elevation change from our head to the ground.
Yeah.
So it's a little bump. But as we tell the athletes and as we'll emphasize, like, you got to go in braced for it to hurt. I mean, if you do cross country correctly in those meets, it's not easy, especially in the middle. So Marion, and then we just basically go every Saturday. So if you're looking for a chance to support the team, Marion's not super close, but the next week we're in Northrop. So, 10-minute drive down to Northrop there. And then we go to West Noble, and then we go back to Huntington. So we're all over the place. And I know it might seem like we just run, but those kids put in a lot of hard work. And like many sports teams, it's what they do when nobody's watching. Are they getting 8 to 9 hours of rest? Are they hydrating and sleeping well? I mean, yeah, it's important, our hard workouts that we do here. But yeah, Coach Miller and I, Coach Hartman, Coach Miller and I are really excited for hopefully a good race on Saturday. And then we just kind of keep going 1 week at a time, trying to get better each week thereafter.
So I'm still a little bit confused, and I'm sure some of the viewers are as well.
I'm sure.
How does scoring in cross country
Yes,
work?
that's a great question. All right, so we race 5 kilometers, it's just over 3 miles. It's 12 and a half laps around the track, if you want to kind of get an idea of that. And so basically, assuming that you're dealing with all full teams, your first 5 runners count as your score. And whatever place you finish is your score, and lowest score wins. So if you're in a small 2-team race, which we don't do any of, but I did several of in high school, if your team's places are, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you'd be at 15 points is the perfect score. If you finish 2 and 8 and 10 and 13 and 15, you'd be at 48 or whatever that adds up to be. So it's your place is your score, top 5 score, and then your 6th and 7th runners, which are also varsity, can then not count towards your scores, but they can add to other team scores, right?
Okay.
So if our 6th runner finishes in 20th, and Homestead's 5th runner finishes in 21st, we just added a point to their score because our 6th runner was in front of their 5th. So depending on the race, like we can run 12 in the varsity race at Marion, but when you get down to postseason time, you race 7, you score 5.
Okay.
Yep. So low score wins in cross country.
So you're allowed to have 7 on a varsity roster.
7 on the line. Your varsity roster, I think anymore, the IHSAA officially allows up to 18 for the postseason roster.
Okay.
We obviously always take at least 7, and really at least probably 9 or 10 from a sub-health standpoint. The number we've often landed around is around 12, but if we have 13, 14, 15, we'll take 13, 14, 15. If we have 8 or 9, we'll take 8 or 9, but official roster can be up to 18. What we do, what Coach Miller and I do, and Coach Yoder before Coach Miller, is that if you run 17:45 or under for a boy, then you're varsity, and if it's 21:15 or under for a girls, varsity.
So I was talking with a couple of cross country players, and
Okay.
they say you have a younger team this year.
That's probably a safe assessment. The guys are at, oh boy, let me check this thing here. We're at 7 seniors, I think that should be right. The guys should be at 7 seniors, and the girls are at, let me think through this, 1, 2, let me check this here. There's that. There's our roster there. Yeah, I mean, younger overall. Just looking at grade levels here, yeah, the guys I'm pretty sure at 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then the girls, there's that, yep, so Aubrey, and then Faith, and then Bella, Paige, and Jill. So there's 5 there, but yeah, of the 21 girls on the roster, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 freshmen, 1, 2, 3, 4. So roughly half there. The guy side is probably even more pronouncedly younger, but yeah, it's not ridiculously low, but I think it's safe to say that, especially as far as potential impact scorers goes, and especially on the girls' side, it'll be young. The boys' side ought to have a couple of, at least a couple upperclassmen up there. But yeah, the girls' side, especially up front, you're going to see all underclassmen.
All right. So speaking of low score wins, let's go ahead and move into girls golf.
Having quite a good start to their season.
At New Haven, they had a school record of 306, and we believe that the way they score golf is they take the top 4 and they add up their scores.
That's what we're thinking, because if it's the top 5, they average 61s, at which point Live Golf is no longer the biggest threat to the PGA Tour.
Yeah, no. They're off to a pretty good start. They were the champs at New Haven with a 306 school record. At Concordia, they were 3 strokes behind at 309, also the champs there. At the Huntington North Invite, they shot a 347, which that was probably a tougher course.
Probably, because I doubt it could be 5. It doesn't take any credentials to host a podcast, but
No,
I'm pretty sure you score 4 most of the time. So
Yeah,
you play 18 holes, right? So par is usually 70, 72.
right. Huntington North, they got second place. They have 5 people up in all the pictures, so
I think you throw out 5 and you score 4.
score 4,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that's correct.
Just like the cross country with their scoring.
Right.
And then Homestead, they got third. And I was talking to a couple of them, and they were really excited that they beat Homestead, and that they said
Yeah.
that was the first time that they
I
ever
remember
beat
that announcement. And we announced those in reverse order. So if you go in the order they've been going, they've been getting better and better
They've
and
been
better
getting
and
better,
better
yeah.
as you go along. And for those that don't know, their season starts crazy early. Like they are well into competition season before school even begins. And their sectional, is it late September, super early October?
Their sectional, I believe, it's September.
Yeah, September 16th. That's crazy. To give you an idea, most sports are like right in mid-season, even earlier season by September 16th.
They're going to be having their sectional in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and state finals would be before even October hits.
Yeah.
First wave. So early season for girls golf.
And they started August 1st.
Yeah. With their competition.
With
That's
their
when-
competition, yeah.
That's when most fall sports started, is having official practice on that Monday.
Because you had optional practices or
Yeah, I
workouts
mean,
in the summer,
almost
right?
all have optional, which basically if you want to be better, you find a way to get there.
Right.
I mean, we're not allowed to make cuts for attendance, but hey, if you want to get better, then obviously, okay, you're on this trip, this happened, you got summer school, we understand those things, but the official, like, hey, you need to be there, practice is, that first
They
Monday.
start, yeah.
It's either that first Monday in August or the very last Monday in July, depending on where the calendar falls.
Yeah. The week they are ranked, Carroll right now is ranked tied for 13 in the state, which that's pretty good. I believe they play golf 4A. And no surprise at number 1 is Carmel.
Is golf class?
I think it is.
I always under the presumption that anything that had an individual component to it was just straight up.
Okay,
But again, I'm the same guy that doesn't know how many they score.
that's true.
So those of you watching might know the answer to this question, but I thought it. Well, let's just look at that. Those are all.
This is the top 20, I believe.
Those are all relatively large schools, but I would not be convinced that those are all the same. Anyway, whatever this poll is, they're 13th in it. And a general rule is most IHSA sports where there's an individual component, like a cross or a track or a swimming or a wrestling, and I would assume golf is the same. It's just straight up one class, which
Straight
is
up one class.
fantastic. And I thought that when I was at a high school of 600 kids, not just 2,600 kids, because you would play and be the best. That's what I love about single class sports. Your team sports are the ones we have, 4 classes in
Everything else
basketball,
except
6 in football, right? All right, golf, volleyball, football, cross, soccer next. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's roll into soccer. Let's start with the girls' soccer. They are 3-3 on the year. They beat Snyder last night,
They did indeed.
and then they beat Leo, and Leo's ranked number 6 in 3A, so that was their best win of the season so far.
Absolutely.
Then South Bend St. Joseph beat them 5-1, but that's one of those schools up there that tough opponent. Get what you get there. And then Evansville Memorial. That's a bit of a hike for Evansville.
Did we play at? Oh, they came up
They
here.
came up here. It's a bit of a hike.
I don't know if that's a year. A lot of teams have, again, no credentials to host a podcast. A lot of teams have rotating schedules. So it's like if Evansville came here, then I don't know if we go there next year if there's a
Yep.
contract thing there. That's not uncommon to see that.
Nope. And then Chesterton also beat us. So they're 3-3 on the year, which not a bad start to the season.
And again, you announced those much like the golf in reverse order. So you notice that they've been playing better, at least as far as results. I mean, they're on, 2-game win streak then?
Yep.
3 over Snyder and then that 2 over Leo. So you always like to be, teams are remembered by how they do, for better or worse. They're remembered by how they do later in the season, in postseason. So you're always looking to be that next one better, whatever that might be.
And they beat Penn in their first game of the season.
Right.
I talked to a lot of the athletes, and one of the schools that they like to beat is Penn.
No,
Yeah. They're like, we like to beat Penn because they're just big.
they are large. Yeah, Penn is, oh man, I don't have enrollment numbers in front of me. They're
4,500.
top, they're certainly top 5. They might even be, Carmel's at 1, of course. Penn could be 2.
Yeah, they're up there.
No.
They're-
Boys soccer?
Yeah, let's go to boys soccer.
While you're going to boys soccer, I got boys. Do we do boys tennis yet?
I don't think we did.
So boys tennis this last weekend was second behind Fishers. I think Fishers was ranked like 6th in the state. The announcement said there. So playing well there, and then they beat Norwell on Tuesday night. So I know the way I hear most about tennis is Coach Stoppel's announcements You hear those pretty frequently in the mornings. And then also, it's like if you haven't been to a tennis match before, and I've been to a few, like the nice thing is that they're relatively quick, especially when you win 5-0 or win 2 straight sets, whatever it is. So just right out here at if you're not even sure where the Carroll tennis courts are, right, from the west end of the building down here, and roughly half their matches here at home, half on the road, and they play well most of the time. So come out and support the boys tennis team.
Yeah. Speaking of tennis, what's right next to tennis is the marching band.
Look at that segue. Oh my goodness, no selfish plug there. What's going on in marching band world, Hunter?
Well, our first competition is Saturday, not this Saturday, but
They have a
Saturday.
week, get this, I didn't know this. They have Saturday off. Did you know that, Carroll High School? So the marching band has a Saturday off. So I was
Crazy.
very, of course you're going to be here with volleyball, but
Yeah.
there you go.
Our first competition is at Goshen on September the 10th. And then, so our first competition is always the first one that you want to get off the ground running. And then after that, it's kind of just getting into the motions. Your goal is to get better every time. And this year we get a chance to go up against Homestead, Chesterton, and Elkhart.
And do you guys add more to the show each week, or what does that look? Because I know it wasn't the halftime show on Friday. It said the first 2/3 of the show. Or something
It was
like that?
closer to like 3/4.
So we're between 6/10 and 7/10. Something
Yep.
like that.
We should have more of a show on the field for Friday.
Like more people or more of the actual show?
Just
itself?
more of the
Okay,
actual
gotcha.
show.
Then you're like holding out the subs, surprise. Not a tuba player.
If we had more players,
Tuba
that would
player,
be
by the
much
way.
nicer.
Yes. This is your tuba plug. How many tuba players are there?
We have 7 this
How many
year.
do you want?
We want as many as we can get.
You
10.
take 30 tuba players?
We would take it. Somebody would hork up
Carroll
the
High School tubas. Well, like you're looking for 10 if you can.
10 would be
And you're
ideal.
at 7.
We have 7.
Okay.
Because 7's just an odd number because it looks weird in the forms. So they have to like write
Prime
it for
numbers
7.
in marching band world don't get along very
No.
well. Okay, no prime numbers. 8 would be perfect.
8. That's what we had last year, and 8 works
What's
fine.
8? 2 4s, 4 2s.
Yep. But if we have 10, that'd work. But then somebody would have to find more instruments.
But don't get up to 11
Don't get up to 11.
unless you're going to go to 12.
Then you got to stop.
You're
at 12.
prime again.
Yeah.
Okay, look at this math lessons on a podcast.
All right.
Nerd, I get it.
Yeah. Well, what else are we got to talk about?
Did we do the boys soccer?
I think that's where we're heading right now.
All right.
So boys soccer, they beat Bishop Dwenger on the 30th, and then let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Won't go reverse order this time.
Their first game that they played, they lost to Warsaw 1-0. Then they beat West Noble 5-0. West Noble, they're not that big of a school, are they?
I always lose reference how big schools are because of how big we are. I would guess there are 4 digits somewhere, but yeah, they're not Carroll sized.
And then they have a player of the week from the first week, and that was Braden Macy for the August 16th game against West Noble. I believe he had a hat trick that game because I did see that pop up at one point.
Really?
And then
And then when was Jacob? Jacob Douglas was player of the game. Oh, that was
Warsaw.
August 13th against Warsaw.
Yep. And then they tied Cathedral again.
That seems good.
Yeah.
I don't know much about soccer and quality of opponents, but Cathedral's like kind of good at most things.
Last year they beat us decently. I think it was like 3-0, or it was 4-0.
Okay.
So a tie to Cathedral's not too bad.
Yeah.
Because Cathedral's one of your big Indianapolis schools.
And I think that was away, it says there. So we traveled
Yeah, it
down
was.
to Indy to tie on 1-1. Okay.
It's not bad. And then the player of the game for there was Braden
Braden,
Macy
yeah.
again. And then we beat Canterbury 3-2.
Which I think historically, at least, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, no commercials for a podcast, but
Nope.
I don't know this year, but normally Canterbury's pretty solid.
Right. And then Trey Thaird. I think that's how you say that name.
I know not.
Sounds about right.
We'll go with it.
And then we beat Homestead
That's
6-0.
always good. I don't care what the sport is.
Let's see what the stats looked like there.
6-0. It's like 2 field goals.
Yeah. Who scored? Let's see.
Sevi had 2. So those that don't know, our football kicker is also our soccer player. And by the way, one of the most memorable, going back to football real quick, one of the most memorable plays for me on that night was that punt that Sebastian had. I think we were at our own
10.
He might have been in the red zone somewhere. And he absolutely launched it. And unfortunately for us, the Snyder guy made an amazing a la Willie Mays. If you don't know who Willie Mays is, go Google that. You need to know that. A la over the shoulder like catch and then turns around and ran it for like 25 yards.
Yeah.
So it was really impressive on both ends. But anyway, our punter kicker, who does a phenomenal job, also scored a couple of goals in that
2 there.
6-0 win against Homestead.
So he scored 1.
Along with Derek, who's also a basketball player. This is the Coach Brooks plug for multi-sport athletes, by the way. It helps you out and causes you to be a better athlete with fewer injuries and overall better. There's my plug. Liam had a goal, and Braden had a goal, and Gavin.
Yep. There's 6 goals. Always love to see when you get to beat Homestead, especially that good.
Yeah, we'll take it in anything.
Yeah.
So they're 5-1-1 are the boys overall.
Yep.
Girls were 3-3. We got golf, we got tennis, we got football, we got cross country. I think if we got everything, cross country,
think we
volleyball,
have.
football, tennis and golf, soccer. There we are. Circling back to anything?
I mean, anything else with football or anything else you want to talk about?
Anything else? So I think one thing that would be worth noting for those that are going to the football game on Friday night, in case you don't pay attention to things like this, which you would have no reason to, is we're home against Northside.
Yep.
Which ordinarily you would think home against Northside, I shall go take a
cakewalk.
nap.
Yeah.
And which is always dangerous, right? Any coach, any player, so if you assume you're going to win, that is
You're
not
going to lose
good.
the game.
But historically, you look at Northside. I mean, let's just go look at Northside recencies, just to give you an idea. Okay,
It hasn't been
2-7 last year. 5-6 the year before that, 4-6, 2-8, 0-10, 1-9, 4-6, 3-7, 7-4. So like above 500 is a big deal for them. And thus far, they played a close game at Snyder in week 1. And you can't compare different games to different opponents, but you know we beat Snyder in a relatively tight game last week. And I think that Snyder Northside game that was at Snyder, the final 2018, I think it was fairly close throughout. So if you can apply any transitive properties, look at this, we're getting transitive properties and prime numbers. Math teachers should love this podcast. Anyway, if you apply, you know, if Northside played Snyder close and Snyder played us close, and Northside played Snyder close on the road and Snyder played us close on the road, and the bigger thing for Northside is they beat Dwinger on Friday, which again, I have no basis for comparing Dwinger this year to Dwinger past years, but if we went through Dwinger's past seasons, they are much better than Northside past seasons. Regardless, you know, I was watching the end of that game when I was up in the booth calling the game on Friday night, and I mean, Northside was super excited to beat Dwinger. So if momentum means anything, I don't know how much momentum means. Maybe in baseball where you're playing every day, it's been a week at that point, but I think it's safe to say Northside is probably excited to play Carroll. I think they've got a lot of momentum and positive energy. But at the same time, without giving away too much, I was talking to one of the coaches, and I think Northside kind of plays defense a little bit the way Snyder does, a little bit more kind of soft coverage and you're kind of nickel and dime over the middle, little crossing routes and so forth. So I think our team is confident, but I'm also confident that Coach Dinan and staff are not hey, let's look past the legends and start looking forward to Wayne. Right? You look forward to some mistakes. So all that rambling to say, don't assume it's going to be a typical Carroll Northside game. Hopefully the result is good for the Chargers, but I think it's safe to say the legends are as confident or as high riding emotion as they have been coming into playing us in a while.
This year they got a bunch of transfers too at Northside, so you got to wonder how much of a factor that's had on there.
You never know. So my understanding is that within Fort Wayne community, you can go to any of the schools regardless of where you live. So you know if you want to do track, you go there. Football, go there. So we'll see. I'm excited for them. I think it's great. Anytime you see better competition, it's going to make you better. So we'll see. But Northside, don't assume it's going to be a cakewalk. Certainly as a Charger fan, you hope you dominate, and maybe we will, but you certainly don't want to go in thinking, no, we got this. When you've got that you very much don't got that. Yeah. So that's the football game on Friday, volleyball on Saturday, cross countries on Saturday. We are at Marion, so if you're going south down 69 for your Labor Day plans, we would be there. And then if the other tournaments to be announced. What do you think, Hunter? Is that going to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining me this week.
You're most welcome.
Podcast.
Glad to be here.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you. Let's edit.